This is Mr. Eugene. You just pulled into your driveway after work. The garage door is 20 feet away. You could be inside in 30 seconds, but you don't move. You sit there in your car, engine off, staring at nothing in particular. 10 minutes pass, then 15, then 20. You're not tired. You're not on your phone. You're not doing anything. You're just sitting. And for those 20 minutes, you feel something you haven't felt all day: peace. If you've done this, you already know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you're probably wondering what kind of man sits in his own driveway for 20 minutes instead of going inside his own home. Let me tell you what kind. A man who has learned that his home is no longer his sanctuary. It's his stage. And the moment he walks through that door, the performance begins. Today we're examining the 20-minute driveway ritual millions of men practice but never discuss. Why men are spending more time in garages, basements, and cars than in their own living rooms. What this behavior actually reveals about the state of modern marriage, the psychological concept of sovereignty and why men are losing it inside their own homes, the specific dynamics that make a man's house feel like everyone's space except his, why this isn't about hobbies or laziness, but about survival, the toll that constant performance takes on male mental health, what women misunderstand when they complain about men hiding in garages, and most critically, what it means when a man would rather sit alone in his car than enter his own home. This is not about blaming women. This is not about claiming all homes are like this. This is about identifying a pattern so widespread that millions of men recognize it instantly, but almost no one discusses it openly. The pattern where a man's home stops being his refuge and becomes the place he needs refuge from. Stay with me. If you've ever sat in your driveway longer than necessary, this will explain why. If you're a woman wondering why your husband spends hours in the garage, this will tell you what he's actually doing out there. The behavior, what the 20-minute driveway ritual actually is, let me describe the pattern precisely so you recognize it. You finish work, the commute home, you pull into your driveway, you turn off the engine, you should get out. You have no reason to stay in the car, but you don't move. You sit there, keys in your lap, hands on the steering wheel or in your lap, staring straight ahead or at your phone but not really looking at anything, not checking emails, not scrolling social media, just existing. Minutes pass. 5 becomes 10, 10 becomes 15, sometimes 20 or more. You're not tired, though you might tell yourself you are if anyone asks. You're not avoiding anything specific inside. There's no crisis waiting, no fight brewing, just normal family life. But something in you resists getting out of the car. Something keeps you in that driver's seat, engine off, in your own driveway, delaying the moment you walk through your own front door. Eventually, you force yourself, you gather your things, you open the car door, you walk to the house, and the moment you step inside, it begins. Honey, can you... Dad, I need... Why didn't you? When are you going to? Did you remember to? Can you help me with... What's for dinner? The sink is broken. Your son did this. We need to talk about. Why do you always? The needs, the requests, the complaints, the expectations, the tasks, the problems, the judgments, the evaluations of whether you're meeting standards you never agreed to. And you realize why you sat in the driveway. Those 20 minutes were the only 20 minutes of your entire day where nobody needed anything from you, where nobody was evaluating your performance, where you didn't have to be on, where you could just exist without someone measuring whether your existence was adequate. That's the 20-minute driveway ritual. And if you've done it, you know exactly what I'm describing. If you haven't, you probably think it sounds pathetic, sitting in your own driveway, avoiding your own family like some kind of coward. But it's not cowardice. It's self-preservation. It's the last fragment of sovereignty a man has left. The ghost in the garage syndrome, why men disappear into spaces. The driveway ritual is just one manifestation of a broader pattern, the ghost in the garage syndrome. The phenomenon where men spend more and more time in garages, basements, sheds, workshops, cars, anywhere but the main living spaces of their own homes. Women notice this. They complain about it. He's always in the garage. He spends all his time in the basement. He's out in that shed for hours. What is he even doing out there? They think he's working on hobbies, fixing things, building projects, wasting time, avoiding responsibility, being lazy, escaping family. Sometimes that's partially true. He is working on projects. He is fixing things. But that's not why he's out there. The projects are the excuse, the socially acceptable reason he can give for spending hours in a space away from everyone else. What he's actually doing is recovering his sovereignty, his sense of self-determination, his ability to exist without being managed, evaluated, corrected, or needed. Let me explain what's actually happening in that garage. What's actually happening in the garage. The recovery of sovereignty. When a man spends 3 hours in his garage on a Saturday, here's what's actually occurring. He walks into a space where everything is his. The tools are arranged how he wants them. The workbench is organized by his logic. The radio plays what he chooses. The temperature is whatever he sets it at. The lighting is how he prefers it. Nobody in that space is going to tell him he's doing something wrong. Nobody is going to interrupt with a task he must stop and handle immediately. Nobody is going to critique his methods or suggest a better way. Nobody is going to ask him to explain himself or justify his choices. If he wants to spend 45 minutes just organizing screws by size, he can. If he wants to disassemble something with no plan to reassemble it, he can. If he wants to sit on a stool and stare at his project without touching it, he can. He's not accountable to anyone for how he spends his time in that space. He's not being evaluated on his productivity. He's not being measured against someone else's standards. He's not performing for anyone's approval. This is sovereignty, self-determination, autonomy, the experience of being the final authority over your own time, space, and choices. For many men, the garage or basement or shed is the only place they experience this. The only place where they're not being managed, where they're not subordinate to someone else's preferences and schedules and standards. Inside the house, his time is not his own. His space is not his own. His choices are not his own. Everything is negotiated, compromised, subjected to someone else's approval. The thermostat setting, the TV channel, the furniture arrangement, when dinner happens, what gets priority, how things should be done. He lives in the house, but he doesn't govern it. Someone else does. And that someone expects him to comply with their governance while simultaneously contributing everything he has. So he retreats to the garage, not because he's obsessed with hobbies, not because he's avoiding family, but because he's starving for the experience of sovereignty, and the garage is the only place he can feed that hunger. The projects give him something to do while he recovers, but the recovery is what he's actually there for. The sovereignty problem, what men are losing inside their own homes. Let me define what I mean by sovereignty, because this is the core issue. Sovereignty means being the final authority over your own domain, having self-determination, making decisions about your life, your space, your time, your resources without requiring permission or approval from someone else. For most of human history, a man's home was his domain, not in the sense that he was a tyrant, but in the sense that he had final decision-making authority over how his household operated. He was responsible for providing, protecting, and leading. And with that responsibility came authority. Modern marriages have systematically stripped men of sovereignty while maintaining all the responsibilities that traditionally came with it. He's still expected to provide financially, still expected to protect, still expected to fix things, maintain things, handle the hard parts, still expected to shoulder the weight of keeping everything running, but he no longer has authority over the domain he's responsible for. Someone else makes the decisions, someone else sets the standards, someone else determines how things will be done. And he's expected to comply while continuing to provide everything. Let me give you specific examples of what this looks like. How sovereignty gets stripped, the 1,000 small losses. Sovereignty isn't lost in one dramatic moment. It's eroded through 1,000 small losses that individually seem reasonable but collectively create a man who is subordinate in his own home. Example 1, the thermostat. He prefers the house cooler. She prefers it warmer. In a relationship with male sovereignty, his preference would prevail because it's his house and his utility bill. In modern marriage, her preference prevails because keeping her comfortable is his job. The thermostat gets set to her preference. He wears fewer clothes or goes to the garage where he can control the temperature, small thing. But it establishes who has final authority over environmental conditions in the home. It's her. Example 2, the furniture. She wants to rearrange the living room. He's fine with how it is. She rearranges it anyway or nags until he helps her rearrange it to her preference. His comfort in the space doesn't factor into the decision. His opinion is noted and dismissed. The furniture gets arranged how she wants it. Small thing, but it establishes who has final authority over how shared spaces look and function. It's her. Example 3, the schedule Saturday morning. He was planning to sleep in and then work on his project in the garage. She has errands planned that require his help, or social obligations she committed them to, or projects she's decided need to happen today. His plan for his own time gets overridden. He's expected to comply with the schedule she's created. Small thing. but it establishes who has final authority over how his time gets allocated. It's her. Example 4. The finances, he earns the money, but he doesn't control how it's spent. Major purchases require her approval. His discretionary spending gets monitored and questioned. He wants to buy something for himself and has to justify the expense, but her spending doesn't get the same scrutiny. The money he earns gets allocated according to her priorities and her standards, small thing, but it establishes who has final authority over financial resources. It's her, even though he earned them. Example 5. The social life, she decides which couples they spend time with, which family events they attend, which social obligations they accept, which activities they participate in. He can veto occasionally, but the baseline expectation is that they do what she's arranged. His preference would be less social activity. Her preference is more. They default to her preference. Small thing. But it establishes who has final authority over their social calendar and relationships. It's her. Example 6. The parenting. He has opinions about how the kids should be raised, what discipline should look like, what standards should be enforced. She has different opinions. When they differ, her approach prevails, often with the explicit statement that she knows better because she's their mother. His authority as father gets subordinated to her authority as mother, small thing. But it establishes who has final decision-making power over the children. It's her. Example 7. The home environment, the noise level, the cleanliness standards, the organization systems, the decorating choices, the rules about shoes inside or outside, the policies about guests. All of it gets determined by her preferences and her standards. He adjusts to them. She doesn't adjust to his. Small thing. But it establishes who has final authority over how the home environment operates day to day. It's her. None of these individual losses seem like a big deal. Marriages require compromise. Partners should consider each other's preferences. Nobody should be a tyrant. But look at the pattern. In every single domain, who has final authority? Who makes the actual decisions when preferences conflict? Whose standards prevail? Whose comfort and preferences shape how the household operates? It's her. Consistently, across every dimension. And what does he have authority over? What domain is his where his decision is final? Usually nothing, or just the garage, the basement, the shed, the spaces she doesn't care about and doesn't want to control. Everything else belongs to her authority. He lives in her domain, in the home he pays for. This is the sovereignty problem, and it's why he sits in his driveway, and why he disappears into the garage, because those are the only spaces where he's not subordinate, where he still has self-determination. The performance requirement, why home became a stage, but it's not just the loss of sovereignty, it's the constant performance requirement that comes with it. When you live in someone else's domain, you're always being evaluated on whether you're meeting their standards. You're always performing for their approval. Inside the house, he's performing constantly. Performance. 1. The emotional performance. He must be emotionally available when she needs it, responsive to her feelings, attentive to her needs, engaged with her concerns, validating of her experiences, but he must also not be too emotional himself, not too tired, not too stressed, not too overwhelmed, not needing too much from her. He must perform emotional availability while suppressing his own emotional needs. This is exhausting. Performance 2, the productivity performance. He must be productively working on the house, the yard, the cars, the projects, fixing what's broken, maintaining what's wearing out, improving what's not good enough. If he's sitting still, he's being lazy. If he's resting, he's not pulling his weight. There's always something that needs doing, and he's always the one who should be doing it. Performance 3, the engagement performance. He must be engaged with the family, present with the kids, involved in their activities, participating in family time, not distracted, not distant, not checked out. Even when he's exhausted from work and performance, he must perform engagement and enthusiasm. Performance 4, the appreciation performance. He must appear grateful for what he has, appreciative of her efforts, acknowledging of her contributions, never resentful, never bitter, never showing that the weight is getting too heavy. Any sign that he's struggling or dissatisfied gets interpreted as failure to appreciate what he has. Performance 5, the capability performance. He must be capable and competent, know how to fix things, handle challenges, solve problems, be strong, be reliable, be the rock, Any admission of not knowing how to do something or needing help gets interpreted as inadequacy. All of these performances must be maintained simultaneously, all day, every day, with no breaks except the ones he steals in the driveway or the garage. Because if any of the performances slip, he gets feedback, sometimes direct criticism, sometimes passive-aggressive comments, sometimes disappointed looks, sometimes withdrawal of affection or warmth. The feedback reminds him, you're being evaluated, you're not meeting standards, you need to perform better. So he stays on stage, performing, until he can escape to the garage where nobody's watching and he can finally drop the act. The toll, what constant performance does to men, this constant performance, this complete lack of sovereignty, this living as a subordinate in a domain you're responsible for providing and maintaining, takes a psychological toll that most people don't recognize until it's severe. Toll 1. Chronic stress, living under constant evaluation, creates chronic stress. Your nervous system never gets to fully relax because there's always potential feedback, always possible criticism, always the need to maintain the performance. This chronic stress manifests as health problems, high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, weight gain or loss, sleep problems, digestive issues. Men die younger than women on average. Part of this is the chronic stress of living without sovereignty. Toll 2. Emotional numbing. When you must suppress your own emotional needs while performing emotional availability for others, you eventually numb out. You lose access to your own feelings because accessing them is dangerous. They might leak out. They might interfere with the performance. So you numb. You disconnect. You become the emotionally unavailable man she complains about, not because you're broken, but because emotional availability is a performance you can't maintain 24/7 while getting nothing in return. Toll 3. Loss of identity. When every aspect of your life is shaped by someone else's preferences and standards, when you never get to be the final authority over your own existence, you lose sense of who you are apart from your role. You're not a person, you're a husband, a father, a provider, a handyman, a performer of functions. But who are you beneath the roles? You don't know anymore because you never get time to exist as just yourself. Toll 4. Resentment. Eventually, resentment builds. You're giving everything, working full-time, maintaining the house, performing emotionally, suppressing your own needs, complying with someone else's governance of your life. And in return, you get criticism, demands for more, and loss of the sovereignty that makes life worth living. The resentment grows. You don't express it because expressing it would be emotional failure, ungratefulness, toxicity, so it sits inside you, poisoning everything. Toll 5. Depression and despair. The combination of chronic stress, emotional numbing, loss of identity, and suppressed resentment eventually produces depression. Not the kind with crying and obvious sadness, the male kind, flatness, emotional distance, loss of interest in everything, going through motions, existing but not living. Men's suicide rates are 3.5 times higher than women's. Part of this is the toll of living without sovereignty in a life that demands constant performance. The garage isn't just a hobby space. It's a survival mechanism. It's the pressure valve that prevents complete collapse. It's where he goes to remain functional enough to continue performing all the roles everyone depends on him to perform. What women misunderstand, the complaints about men hiding women see their husbands disappearing into garages and basements and they complain. They don't understand what's actually happening. They interpret it through their own framework. Misunderstanding 1, he's avoiding family, she thinks. He doesn't want to spend time with us. He's choosing his hobbies over his family. He's being selfish. He cares more about his projects than his kids. He's a bad father and husband. The reality, he's not avoiding family. He's recovering sovereignty so he has enough psychological resources to continue being present for family without collapsing. If he didn't have the garage, he'd be far less available, far more checked out, far more depressed. The garage is what allows him to keep functioning as husband and father. Misunderstanding 2, he's being lazy, she thinks. There are things inside that need doing. He's out there wasting time on unnecessary projects, while I'm handling everything inside. He's not pulling his weight. He's being lazy. The reality, he's handling everything she's decided he should handle on her timeline to her standards. The garage is where he handles things on his own terms. It's not laziness. It's the only productive work he does that's self-determined rather than assigned. Misunderstanding 3, he's not interested in the home she thinks. He doesn't care about how our home looks or functions. He's not invested in our shared space. He'd rather be out in that dirty garage than making our home nice. The reality, the home is her domain. She's made all the decisions about it. He's just labor for implementing her vision. He can't be invested in something he has no authority over. The garage is where he can actually invest because it's the only space he governs. Misunderstanding 4, he just needs hobbies, she thinks. Men need hobbies. He's working on his projects. That's healthy. I should encourage it, as long as he's not gone too much. The reality, it's not about hobbies, it's about sovereignty. The projects are the excuse for being in the only space where he has self-determination. If she understood this, she might recognize that the problem isn't him needing hobbies, it's him needing sovereignty throughout his life, not just in the garage. Misunderstanding 5, he's being immature, she thinks. Grown men shouldn't need to hide in garages. He should be able to just be part of the family without needing escape. This is immature behavior. Real men don't run away. The reality, real men throughout history had sovereignty. They had domains where their authority was final. Modern men have been stripped of this while maintaining all the responsibilities that came with it. Retreating to the garage isn't immaturity, it's adaptation to an untenable situation. Because women don't understand what's actually happening, they can't address the real problem. They think the problem is him spending time in the garage. So they try to limit garage time, guilt him about it, criticize it, create more demands that prevent it. And this makes everything worse. Because he's not going to the garage to avoid family, he's going to the garage to recover the sovereignty he needs to remain functional. Limiting garage time doesn't make him more present. It makes him more depleted, more numb, more resentful, more depressed. She's treating the symptom and making the disease worse. The solution isn't more garage time, it's sovereignty throughout life. Some men think the solution is negotiating for more garage time. If I can just get her to agree to 4 hours every Saturday, I'll be fine. This is treating the symptom, not the disease. The problem isn't insufficient garage time. The problem is that the garage is the only place with sovereignty. If sovereignty existed throughout your life, you wouldn't need to escape to the garage to experience it. The solution isn't more garage time. The solution is sovereignty restoration. What sovereignty restoration looks like, element 1, authority over your own time. Your time belongs to you first. You allocate it. You decide what's priority. She can request your time. She cannot command it. She can ask for help. She cannot assign tasks without your agreement. When you decide to help with her project, it's because you chose to, not because she decided you would. Element 2, authority over your resources. The money you earn belongs to you. You decide how it's allocated. She can request funds. She cannot spend without your approval on major purchases, just as you cannot spend without hers. Financial decisions are made jointly with both parties having veto power, not one party having unilateral authority over money the other earned. Element 3, authority over your space. Your home is your domain as much as hers. When preferences conflict about thermostat, furniture, organization, your preference matters as much as hers. Decisions get made jointly, not unilaterally by whoever cares more. Element 4, authority over your standards. You're not being evaluated against her standards. You're operating by standards you both agreed to. If you're meeting the standards you agreed to, there's no performance review, no criticism, no feedback that you're inadequate. Element 5, emotional reciprocity. You provide emotional support. She provides emotional support. It's reciprocal, not one-directional. You're allowed to have needs, to be tired, to be stressed, to need support without this being framed as failure to be strong enough. Element 6, shared governance. The household is governed jointly. Neither person is subordinate to the other. When decisions must be made, both parties have equal authority. Neither party can override the other consistently. This is what sovereignty restoration looks like. And if it existed throughout your life, you wouldn't need the garage as escape because your entire home would be a place where you have self-determination, how to restore sovereignty, the conversation, and the boundary. If you're a man who's been living without sovereignty, here's how to begin restoration. Step 1, recognize the pattern first. Acknowledge what's happening. You've been stripped of sovereignty. You're subordinate in your own home. You're performing constantly. The garage is your only refuge. This isn't in your head. This isn't you being weak. This is the objective reality of how your household operates. Step 2, identify the specific losses. Make a list of every domain where you lack final authority. Every area where her preferences consistently override yours. Every space where you're being evaluated against standards you didn't agree to. Be specific. Thermostat, furniture, schedule, finances, social calendar, parenting, home environment, emotional performance requirements. Step 3, the conversation. Sit her down. Have direct conversation. I need to talk about how our household operates. I've realized that I have no sovereignty in my own home. Every decision gets made by you or subject to your approval. Every domain operates by your standards and your preferences. I'm expected to provide everything, fix everything, handle everything, but I have no authority over anything. I'm not performing my role. I'm subordinate in the home I provide for, and it's destroying me. Here are the specific areas where this is happening. List them with examples. This needs to change. I need sovereignty restored, not just in the garage, throughout my life. I need authority over my own time, my own resources, my own space. I need to be governed jointly with you, not subordinated to your governance. I'm willing to work on this together, but I'm not willing to continue living as a subordinate in my own home. This conversation is about whether we can restructure our marriage to restore my sovereignty while maintaining partnership, or whether this marriage is structured in a way that will eventually destroy me. Step 4. The boundary. After the conversation, establish boundaries. Your time is yours to allocate. She can request. She cannot assign. Your money is yours to govern jointly. She cannot make unilateral decisions about resources you provide. Your preferences matter as much as hers. Conflicts get negotiated, not defaulted to her preference. You're not being evaluated. You're meeting agreed upon standards, and that's sufficient. When she violates these boundaries, enforce them every time, consistently. This will create conflict. She's accustomed to governing. She won't release authority easily. She'll resist. She'll escalate. She'll call you controlling, selfish, unloving, failing as a husband. Hold the boundary anyway. Because the alternative is continuing to live without sovereignty until it destroys you completely. Step 5. Accept potential consequences. Restoring sovereignty might end your marriage. She might not be capable of relating to you as equal rather than subordinate. She might require your subordination to feel secure. If that's true, the marriage was going to end anyway, either through divorce when she pushes you too far, or through your complete psychological collapse, or through you dying 10 years earlier than you should from stress-related disease. Better to end it while demanding what you need than to continue accepting what's killing you. But often, when you establish boundaries and refuse to back down, something unexpected happens. She respects you more. She responds better. The relationship improves. Because women generally can't respect men they can dominate. And you've been allowing domination. When you stop allowing it, when you reclaim authority over your own life, the dynamic shifts. She might not like it initially, but she'll respect it, and respect is more important than approval. Final thoughts. The 20 minutes you're stealing back. If you've sat in your driveway for 20 minutes putting off going inside your own home, you already know something is wrong. Your home should be your refuge. The place you want to be. The place you restore rather than the place you need restoration from. If you're stealing 20 minutes in your car or spending hours in the garage just to experience basic sovereignty, that's not you having a hobby. That's not you being antisocial. That's you surviving. But survival isn't enough. You deserve more than stolen moments of peace in your driveway. You deserve sovereignty throughout your life. Your home should be your domain, not someone else's that you're permitted to occupy as long as you perform adequately. You should govern your own life, not be governed by someone else's preferences while providing everything they require. You should have authority commensurate with responsibility, not all responsibility with no authority. The 20-minute driveway ritual is your soul telling you something is deeply wrong. Listen to it. Stop accepting stolen scraps of sovereignty. Demand restoration of what was taken, because you're going to die one day. And when you do, you don't want to look back and realize you spent your entire life performing for someone else's approval in a domain you provided but never governed. Stealing moments of peace in your car because you were never allowed to have it in your own home. You deserve better than that. Your life deserves better than that. Stop sitting in the driveway. Go reclaim your sovereignty. Drop a comment if you've sat in your driveway longer than necessary. What were you avoiding? What were you recovering from? What did those 20 minutes give you that your home doesn't? Subscribe for analysis that names what you're experiencing but haven't had words for. Build your sovereignty. Reclaim your domain. And stop accepting refuge in your car when your entire home should be your refuge.